They told you your hands were just tools, instruments for getting things done, for building, fixing, typing, grasping. But that's not the whole truth. It never was. Your hands are not just physical extensions of your body. They are expressions of your will, conduits for your attention, and mirrors of your inner world. They don't just perform tasks. They shape energy. They transmit intention. They broadcast frequency. Think back. Before you could even speak, before you had language, you had hands. You reached for what you wanted. You clung to what felt safe. You pushed away what didn't. Long before your brain could wrap around the concept of logic or reason, your hands were speaking. They were fluent in something older than words, something instinctive, subtle, and electric. But over time, that fluency was replaced. They told you how to hold your hands, when to raise them, when to keep them still. You were taught that proper behavior meant folding them quietly, keeping them visible but motionless. That movement should be minimal. That energy flowing through the fingers needed to be subdued, made polite. They didn't want you to know what your hands were really capable of, because hands are not just about action. They are about expression. And expression is dangerous to systems that rely on silence, suppression, and control. Your hands were never meant to be passive. They were meant to be intentional. Every motion, every touch, every gesture carries meaning, not just symbolically, but literally. Your hands shape your nervous system. They shape your thoughts. They shape the field of energy that surrounds your body, constantly scanning, sensing, and responding. Ancient cultures knew this. From mystics and healers to warriors and sages, they understood that the hand is not merely anatomical, it is metaphysical. In yogic traditions, they practiced mudras, specific positions of the fingers and palms, to realign energy pathways, influence the brain, and connect to deeper states of awareness. These weren't aesthetic choices. They were technologies, sacred biohardware embedded in flesh and bone, passed down through generations of those who understood the language of energy. Each mudra is a command, not verbal, not external, but energetic. The simple act of pressing thumb to forefinger isn't just symbolic, it's circuitry. It completes an energetic loop between intention and insight, thought and stillness. It's the difference between chaos and coherence, and the science is catching up. Modern neuroscience confirms what sages have always known. The positioning of your hands can alter your state of mind, impact your emotional regulation, and activate different parts of your brain. The body listens to the hands. When your hands move with presence, your brain follows. Your energy follows. It's not superstition. It's neuroelectric reality. But here's the catch. Most people have forgotten. Or rather, they've been conditioned to forget. In a world obsessed with screens, clicks, and swipes, our hands have become instruments of consumption, not creation. We scroll endlessly with fingers that once opened portals to higher states of being. The same hands that once healed are now overstimulated, restless, reacting to algorithms instead of intuition. And we wonder why we feel disconnected, drained, distracted. It's not just the mind that's scattered, it's the signal. And the signal runs through the hands. Your hands were meant to shape energy, to carve intention into reality, to sculpt thought into action. But instead, they've been turned into extensions of devices, trained to obey rather than express. Every mindless scroll, every reactive twitch is a ritual, an unconscious one, a ritual of disempowerment. But rituals can be rewritten, because the code is still inside you, buried perhaps, dormant maybe, but not gone. And every moment of stillness, every conscious gesture, every breath, paired with a deliberate hand movement, is an act of remembering. a return to the ancient technology of the self. There's a reason hands are central in spiritual practice. Think about it. Prayer hands, open palms, hands over heart, hands raised toward the heavens. Across all religions, cultures, and traditions, Catholicism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, the hands have always been used to signal intention. And it's not coincidence. The body doesn't lie. The hands don't lie. They say what words often cannot. When your hands are closed, your energy is closed. When they are open, so are you. When you press them together in front of your chest, you are signaling unity, balance, focus, reverence, and your body responds accordingly. Your breath slows, your heart rate drops, your awareness sharpens. The gesture doesn't just express a feeling, it generates one. This is the bridge between thought and matter. Gesture is the alchemy that turns invisible into visible. That's why scattered people feel powerless, not because they lack ideas, but because their gestures contradict their intention. They say they want peace while clenching their fists. They want clarity while scrolling mindlessly. They want connection while holding their body in defensive postures. The energy is split, fragmented, and fragmented energy doesn't manifest. It misfires, it leaks. The ancient mystics were not romanticizing the body, they were mastering it. They knew that energy responds to structure, that spirit flows where form allows it to. They practiced mudras not as decoration, but as direction. Thumb to middle finger, that's for patience. Thumb to pinky, that's communication. Every combination opens a different channel, not metaphorically, energetically. And that brings us to the real power, alignment. True manifestation, true energetic creation, doesn't happen because of thought alone. It happens when thought, body, and spirit are aligned. The Trinity. The Holy Triad that appears in cultures around the globe. Mind, body, spirit. It's not just religious symbolism, it's energetic architecture. Your mind sets the intention, your body forms the gesture, your spirit fuels the current. When all three move together, your hands become tools of creation, instruments of manifestation. But when they're out of sync, when the body says yes, but the hands say no, or when the spirit is willing but the actions are hollow, you become scattered. And scattered energy doesn't flow. It stutters, it doubts, it loops. This is why most people never manifest what they truly want. Not because they don't desire it, but because they can't hold the frequency long enough. Their energy is incoherent. Their signal is scrambled. Their hands are transmitting confusion instead of clarity. And clarity, true, embodied clarity, is the most magnetic force in the universe. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are, to what you radiate, to what your nervous system is rehearsing in every breath, every movement, every gesture. You can't affirm one thing with your words and broadcast something else with your body and expect results. The field listens to what's real, not what's rehearsed. That's why the hands are your secret weapon. They anchor your intention in form. They turn thought into presence. They carry your frequency before you even speak. When used consciously, they become a tuning fork, aligning your internal world with the external one you're shaping. And this isn't something you have to believe in blindly. You can feel it. Right now. Sit still. Flip your palms up. Rest them gently on your thighs. Feel the openness, the receptivity. The nervous system relaxes. Now flip them down. Feel the grounding, the return. Now press them together in front of your heart. Unity, centering, peace. These are not empty gestures. They are ancient instructions, access points into a deeper way of living. And the more you practice them, the more your energy field begins to shift. The noise quiets. The static clears. The path sharpens. You don't need to go live in a cave. You don't need to memorize every Sanskrit term. You just need to remember. Remember that every gesture you make, every way you move your hands throughout the day, is either reinforcing your alignment or draining it. It's either making you magnetic or scattering your signal, and the choice is always yours. You don't need a full ritual to realign. You just need to choose a moment. One moment where you break the pattern, where you stop moving from habit and start moving from awareness. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be honest. That's where it begins. Because if there's one thing your hands have been doing without your permission, it's reacting. Reacting to the phone's vibration, reacting to the screen, reacting to the tension in your chest, reacting to thoughts that never belonged to you in the first place. You think you're choosing, but your hands have already been trained. They twitch, they scroll, they reach. Not because you told them to, but because repetition became ritual. That's the danger of automation. When a gesture becomes so familiar that you no longer notice the energy it carries, it's easy to underestimate the weight of unconscious motion. But every time your fingers tap out words in anger, every time you clench your fists under the table, every time you refresh the feed again and again, without even thinking, you're casting a signal. You're declaring a state. And your body listens. Your nervous system adapts. The field around you adjusts. And all of this happens without you ever saying a word. But there's power in breaking the loop, in catching the moment, in choosing the gesture that reclaims your signal instead of scattering it. It doesn't have to be complicated. One breath, one pause, one deliberate placement of the hands. That's enough to flip the switch. Because your body isn't confused. Your spirit isn't lost. They're waiting. Waiting for you to remember that you're not here to perform your life. You're here to inhabit it. Fully. Clearly. With both feet on the ground and both hands in the present moment. The world doesn't make that easy. It trains you out of awareness. It teaches you to optimize instead of feel. To respond quickly instead of intuitively. To reach for what's marketed, not what's meaningful. And every system you interact with, school, work, media, is built on that disconnection. It starts early. Sit still. Don't fidget. Don't gesture too much. Keep your hands to yourself. You weren't just learning manners. You were being taught to disassociate from one of your most ancient sources of communication. The very thing that once helped you feel safe, that signaled connection, that shaped your environment. You were told to silence it. And then came technology. Suddenly your hands became functional tools in a system designed for speed, not depth. Tap, swipe, scroll, type, over and over. Until your hands, once alive with sensation and intuition, became mechanical. Fast, reactive, but not intentional, not present. That's why so many people feel numb. Not because they're broken, but because they've been overstimulated into disconnection. When your hands lose their connection to your awareness, your whole system starts to glitch. You lose sensitivity. You lose clarity. You lose the ability to feel before you act. And that's the difference between intuition and impulse. Intuition is felt. It lives in stillness, in the space between the noise. But impulse? That's rehearsed. That's the body's attempt to keep up with a world moving too fast. That's the nervous system stuck on alert, reaching for anything that will give it a moment of relief. The problem is, that relief doesn't last. Because it's not real connection. It's stimulation, dressed up as presence. And you know this. Deep down, you feel it. The empty exhaustion after another endless scroll. The ache in your chest when your hands have moved all day, but never once touched something meaningful. The restless sleep, the shallow breath, the quiet craving for something more. You don't need more productivity. You need presence. And that starts with the body, with the breath, with the hands. Because the hands remember. They always have. Long before you understood what memory even was, your hands were building it. Through touch, through motion, through gesture. That's why trauma lives in the body. Not as thought, but as tension, as tightness, as patterns of movement and stillness that tell the story your mind may not even remember. When someone's anxious, their hands show it. Restless fingers, tight grips, tapping, twitching. When someone's calm, their hands show that too. Slow movements, open palms, gentle placement. This is not surface behavior. This is language. And once you learn to read it, you stop mistaking stress for your natural state. You start listening. And you begin the slow return to yourself. Start by noticing. When you sit, where do your hands go? Do they fidget? Do they close off? Do they reach for distraction? What happens when you let them rest, open and unguarded? What happens when you bring one hand to your chest, close your eyes, and breathe? It's subtle, but it's powerful. Because in that moment, your body receives a signal. We're safe. We're home. We're listening now. And here's the thing. Your energy responds faster than your mind. The moment you change your posture, the moment you shift your breath, the moment you choose stillness instead of reaction, your frequency adjusts. Not in theory, not in metaphor, in your actual, measurable state. This is what modern science now supports. The way you move influences how you think, how you feel, how you heal. That's not esoteric. That's neurological. That's embodied truth. And this is where ancient wisdom and modern science begin to meet. In the space where gesture becomes medicine, where awareness becomes alignment, where the body becomes more than a machine and starts to become what it always was, a transmitter. Your hands aren't passive. They're broadcasting all the time. The only question is, what signal are they sending? Are they aligned with what you say you want? Or are they rehearsing your fear, your scarcity, your old stories? When you understand that movement is message, that form creates frequency, you begin to take your gestures seriously. Not in a rigid way, not as performance, but as practice. Practice in presence, practice in precision, practice in remembering who you are when you stop reacting and start choosing. This is why ancient traditions placed so much emphasis on the ritual of the everyday. It wasn't just about grand ceremonies. It was about how you touch your food, how you wash your hands, how you hold a child, how you speak with your palms open or closed. Every act was a prayer. Every movement was intentional. They understood what we've forgotten. Your energy is your responsibility, and your hands are the first place that responsibility takes form. That's why even a small gesture done with awareness can change your entire state. Open your palms. Let them face upward. Take one full breath. You've just entered a receiving state, not as an idea, as a nervous system reality. Now press your palms together. You've just created balance, integration, presence. These shapes are not decorative. They are designs, and your body remembers them because you've been here before. Not in this form, maybe, not in this life, but your soul knows the language, and it's been waiting for you to speak it again. That's the quiet revolution. Not louder voices, not faster hustle, but softer presence, embodied clarity, actions rooted in coherence. Because when your hands are aligned with your heart, and your heart is aligned with your intention, you become magnetic. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you invite. And what you invite is not just what you want, it's what you are. And this is why conscious gesture matters. Because in a world that moves fast, the real rebellion is to move slow. In a world of reaction, the power is in choosing. In a world that wants you fragmented, scattered, and stretched thin, the most radical act is to be whole, to hold your own energy, to speak your own language, to reclaim your own signal. And it starts here, with the breath, with the body, with the hands. Most people walk through life like open tabs on a browser, scattered, overstimulated, stretched too thin. Their minds chase clarity, but their bodies rehearse tension. Their words reach for peace, but their gestures say otherwise. And the worst part, they don't even notice, because they've been trained not to. You've been taught to believe that power lives outside of you, that it wears a name tag, a title, a certification, a currency. But that's not power. That's proximity to systems that reward performance. Real power is quiet. It's embodied. It doesn't scream. It hums. It radiates. And it begins in the body. It begins with awareness. It begins in the hands. Every day, without realizing it, you perform rituals. Rituals of disconnection. You wake up and check your phone before you check in with your breath. You scroll before you stretch. You touch glass more than earth. These small, repetitive actions are not neutral. They are programming your field. They are setting the tone for how your nervous system will respond to the world. And it's not your fault. You were born sensitive, aware, intuitive. Your hands knew how to reach for what felt good, how to push away what didn't. But sensitivity wasn't convenient to the system. It made you unpredictable, harder to control. So it was labeled as weakness, as distraction, as something to fix. And in its place, they gave you scripts, expectations, rules. Sit still, be productive, don't feel too much, don't ask too many questions, and above all, don't pause long enough to notice what's happening inside of you. Because if you did, you might remember that your body knows more than you think, that your hands have always been trying to tell you the truth. The truth is, your body speaks in signals. Your energy broadcasts constantly, and your hands are the translators between the seen and unseen. They hold the micro movements of your inner state. When you clench without knowing why. When you fidget instead of speak. When you fold your arms and call it comfort. These are not random behaviors. They are echoes of your energy, trying to find form. So what happens when you stop overriding those signals? What happens when you choose to move with presence? What happens when your hands become intentional again? Everything shifts. Suddenly, the world around you starts to respond to a different frequency. One that isn't frantic. One that isn't reactive. One that doesn't need to prove or perform. But to get there, you have to slow down enough to feel again. To listen. To remember. Because what you're seeking is not out there. It's not in a seminar, or a certification, or a better to-do list. What you're seeking is inside your own body. In the way your shoulders rise when you're pretending you're fine. In the way your breath shortens when you're not speaking your truth. In the way your fingers tighten when you're holding something you should have let go of months ago. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. And the hands? The hands hold it all. Not just physical memory, but energetic memory. The stories, the patterns, the old codes. They're stored in the way you move, the way you touch, the way you resist touching. That's why healing isn't a mindset shift. It's a full-body reorientation. You don't just think your way into alignment. You gesture it. This is why ancient practices were built on embodied rituals. Why mudras weren't decorations but keys. Why postures weren't about looking peaceful but becoming coherent. Because coherence is the goal. Not perfection, not constant positivity, but coherence. Alignment between thought, feeling, breath, and motion. And when those four things sync up, your energy field becomes clear. charged, magnetic. You stop broadcasting noise and start transmitting signal. That's the shift. That's the return. But it's not something you force. It's something you allow. And it begins with a choice: to stop abandoning your body, to stop outsourcing your authority, to bring your attention back home, to your breath, your spine, your hands. This is not a one-time awakening. It's a practice, a rhythm, a remembering. And it happens in the smallest moments. The moment you notice your hands gripping the steering wheel too tight. The moment you're about to react, but instead you pause and let your fingers rest open. The moment you feel the urge to fidget, and instead you breathe. And just like that, you're back. Back in the present, back in your body, back in your power. Because your energy cannot be stolen when it's anchored. It cannot be rerouted when it's clear. It cannot be manipulated when it's embodied. The world will still try. It will still throw noise your way. Urgency, outrage, distraction. It will try to make you forget. But the more you practice presence, the harder it becomes for anything to pull you away from yourself. And your hands will be the first to notice. Because once you've trained them to move from awareness, they become your guardians, your translators, your mirrors. They'll tell you when you're slipping, when your energy is leaking, when your signal is being scrambled. All you have to do is listen. This is the true power of embodiment. It's not about looking enlightened. It's about living aligned. It's about knowing that your nervous system is not a liability. It's a compass. That your energy field is not abstract. It's alive. That your hands are not just tools. They are sacred interfaces between your consciousness and the world. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know the name of every mudra. You don't need to meditate for hours. You just need to care. To care enough to notice how you show up. To care enough to feel how your energy moves. To care enough to stop treating your presence like it's disposable. Because the truth is, your presence is currency. Your coherence is power. And your hands are the fastest way to claim both. You don't manifest what you think. You manifest what you embody. And embodiment doesn't happen in the mind. It happens in motion, in rhythm, in breath, in gesture. The next time you feel overwhelmed, stop. Don't reach for the distraction. Don't grip the wheel tighter. Don't numb the signal. Instead, breathe. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Feel the rise and fall. You're here. You're alive. You're safe. Then flip your palms up. Let them rest. Let them open. Let the signal shift. You've just reclaimed yourself. This is what it means to rewire your field. Not by force, but by presence. Not by affirmation alone, but by action. Because the nervous system needs more than mantras. It needs practice, repetition, trust. The beauty is, your body adapts. Your field learns. Your hands remember. The more often you move from presence, the more natural it becomes. The easier it is to catch yourself in the spiral. The faster you find your center. And slowly, something starts to change. You begin to respond differently. You make decisions from clarity, not panic. You speak from truth, not tension. You touch with intention, not habit. You no longer chase the timeline someone else handed you. You write your own. Because you've stopped reacting from old code. You've started living from alignment. And it shows. In your eyes. In your posture. In the way people feel around you. There's a stillness now. A steadiness. A quiet kind of power that doesn't need to dominate or explain itself. It just is. And it moves through your hands like light. That's the signal the world responds to. Not noise, not performance, but coherence. You are not here to prove yourself to a world that forgot how to feel. You are here to remember, to realign, to reclaim the energy that was always yours. And the way back isn't through more striving. It's through stillness, through awareness, through the simple, sacred intelligence of your own body, especially your hands. Because your hands hold everything you've ever carried: grief, joy, confusion, truth, longing, silence. They remember the weight of things you never said out loud. They remember the shape of every moment you've tried to forget. They've reached for comfort when your words failed. They've held on when your heart let go. And they've kept moving, even when your spirit didn't know how. So it's no small thing when you choose to use your hands differently, when you choose to be conscious instead of automatic, intentional instead of habitual, present instead of reactive. That one choice sends ripples through your entire field, because energy is always moving, always shaping, always signaling. And when you don't choose what you're transmitting, something else will choose for you. That's the quiet trap of this world. It teaches you to be passive with your power, to move your body as if it has no voice, to treat your presence like it's optional. But it's not. You are the transmitter, the source, the origin of the signal. And it's time to take that role back. You don't need to make this complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the more powerful it becomes. The most ancient truths are not complex. They are elemental. You breathe, you feel, you move with clarity, you gesture with awareness. You take one sacred breath with your palms facing the sky, and you declare without words, "I am open." You press your palms together and tell your system, "I am centered." You place your hand on your heart and say, "I am here." And the body listens. The breath deepens. The energy realigns. That's not poetry. That's physics. That's coherence. And coherence is the beginning of everything. Because you've been living with a fractured signal for far too long. A signal split between who you truly are and who you were trained to be. Between the part of you that remembers and the part that performs. Between the soul that wants to build a future and the habits that keep you repeating the past. But it doesn't have to stay that way, because the signal can be cleaned, strengthened, rewritten. Every time you choose presence over performance, you clear static. Every time you move your hands with intention, you rewrite code. Every time you pause and ask, "What am I transmitting right now?" you step back into sovereignty. And that's the real work. Not just manifestation, but embodiment. Not just calling things in, but becoming the version of you who's able to hold them. That's the shift that changes everything. And it starts in the body. It starts with breath. And it's amplified, always, through the hands. Because your hands are the final translator. They make your energy visible. They complete the sentence your heart has been whispering for years. When your hands shake with fear, your body is telling the truth. When they reach for the wrong thing out of habit, that's your signal asking for attention. When they rest in stillness, wide open, you are choosing alignment over anxiety. You are not just a mind. You are not just a body. You are not just a spirit. You are all three. And your hands, they are the bridge between them. They are the point of fusion, the place where thought becomes form, where feeling becomes action, where intention becomes experience. So every time you lift your hands with presence, you're saying something to the field around you. You're declaring, "I know who I am. I know what I'm creating. I know what I'm ready to receive." And life listens. The field adjusts. Reality reorganizes. Because this is not just philosophy. This is energetic mechanics. This is how alignment becomes creation. This is how manifestation becomes material. It's not just about visualizing. It's about matching your gesture to your vision. It's about embodying what you say you want in the smallest details. Posture, movement, presence. Most people try to manifest from the mind, while their body speaks the opposite language. They say, "I am ready," while their hands are clenched. They affirm abundance, while their energy broadcasts fear. And they wonder why it doesn't land, why things feel blocked, why clarity feels distant. It's not because they're broken, it's because they're incoherent. But coherence is available to anyone, right here, right now, without a guru, without a course, without a 30-day challenge. All it takes is the willingness to feel your own energy again, to step out of the scripts, to choose presence. So ask yourself, where are your hands right now? Are they resting gently? Are they reaching for something unconscious? Are they performing, or are they expressing? And deeper still, what is your energy saying, without words? You don't have to answer with your mind. Let your body speak. Let your nervous system respond. Let your hands show you the truth. Because they will. They always do. You just have to be quiet enough to hear them. And that's where the real revolution begins. Not in the streets, not in the scroll, but in the silence, in the pause, in the breath between reaction and intention. When your hands stop rehearsing stress and start rehearsing presence, you shift timelines. You change outcomes. You signal to the world and to yourself that you are ready for a different kind of life. Not louder, not busier, but deeper, clearer, truer. A life that's built on coherence, not chaos. A life that responds to your essence, not your noise. And when you live that way, your presence becomes a gift. Your energy becomes medicine. You don't just change your own life. You become an invitation for others to do the same. You ripple coherence outward. You become a quiet revolution. And it all starts with a hand. One hand resting on your chest. One gesture of trust. One breath that says, "I am here. I am ready. I remember." Because you were never disconnected. You were just distracted. And now you're coming back. To yourself. To your body. To your power. Not through effort, but through embodiment. Not through chasing, but through choosing. And your hands, they'll be with you the whole way.